This is the true story of how I got so sick and tired of the grind that I literally just quit and now I just do nothing. I think it kind of started probably as a kid at school, this sense of always having to achieve something and feeling you're like on this factory line, this production line of, I've got to do this because that's going to lead to so and so. If I get good grades, I'll get a good job. If I get a good job, I'll get a good salary. If I get a good salary, I'll get a good house. I'll get a good partner. I'll have a good life. And I was kind of on this treadmill path of trying to get all of this stuff. Now, the first time I kind of quit and walked away from this and seemed to have some kind of inkling that something was wrong with this way of looking at the world was in my first and last ever job. Now, I got this job after university and I very quickly realized it was not for me. I got there and I could see easily that everybody there was depressed. The light had gone out in their eyes. They were just kind of living a lie. They were all hanging on for retirement just because this was a way to make money. I was in my 20s. I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. I thought, well, this has been sold to me as this amazing opportunity and surely I should give it another go or hang in longer. What am I missing here? And I spoke to my boss, and my boss was in his 50s at the time, and he said, yeah, I'm just waiting until I retire so I can actually do something I enjoy. And that to me was like seeing through the matrix for the first time. Like I completely realized that this whole 9-to-5 work career ladder was just a complete joke. So I quit my job and I started my own business. I thought that was the way. And very quickly, I fell onto the next treadmill. Now, for me, that treadmill was trying to get recognition from my dad. My dad was old school. He was, born in the 40s, didn't show any kind of love or affection really, and was very shortcoming in his praise. I don't really remember him praising me ever. But I thought, well, if I do really well with my business as an entrepreneur, then maybe he'll show me that respect, that attention. He'll show me that love. And that's really what drove me. So I was just on a different treadmill. I was just doing a different type of grind. Now, at one point, I kind of woke up from that and I realized, I'm never going to get my dad's approval. It's never going to happen. So now I'll do it for myself. And that then became all about accumulating wealth. I made a lot of money, a serious amount of money with my business. But I'd not got that approval. I hadn't got that thing. I still felt like I was missing something. It just felt awkward and incomplete. I felt like, what am I trying to get? I'm always trying to get something. I'm, slaving away like 12 hours a day. I'm always planning ahead and stressing myself out and busting my guts to try and achieve stuff. But why? So I think maybe deep down it was still to try and get my father's approval, but that quickly ended because he died rather unexpectedly. And I never heard the words from him, I love you. I never got that kind of well done from him. And at that point, everything really started to fall away. I really questioned, well, not only why am I doing all of this, what's the point? What am I trying to achieve? And who am I anyway? So I completely stepped off any kind of treadmill or production line at this point. I took a step back and I spent months and months just indoors in my house, doing nothing, trying to understand what life was, what the world meant anymore, who I was, what I was. And at the same time as all this was going on, I was exploring deeply spirituality and this feeling, this deep belief that what I call I, or what I'd been calling I, was not a person, was not a human, was not an individual, but was just awareness. That this, what I called I, who was seeking to fulfill itself, seeking to get more financial gain, to get more achievement, and even seeking spiritual awakening or enlightenment, I realized that I didn't exist in the way that I thought it used to. So at that point, there was no drive anymore. There was no treadmill at all. There was nothing to work for. There was nothing to set a goal towards, because there wasn't a person here at all. What can you do when you realize that you are not an individual? That it's just all that there is, that you are all that there is, and that's the only thing that there is. And everything is you, and you're simultaneously no thing. So you're nothing, but you're simultaneously everything. And partway through this, I became very deeply depressed. I couldn't see the point in any of it anymore. I'd glimpsed the truth, the deeper reality that there is just all that there is, and I am that. But there was still a human element, there was still some human residue left over. There was still a little me that felt, oh, well, what should I do now? What's the point? What's the future? Am I just going to die and that's it? So these months and months that I took out away from life, not interacting with people, not engaging, not producing anything, not helping anybody, not really doing anything, put me in this deep depression. And then I remember watching a video interview with Jim Carrey, and he said, when you're depressed, it's because what the world is telling you or life is showing you that you need deep rest. You're not depressed, you need deep rest. And he spoke about this idea that you need to rest from the person you believed yourself to be. That it's the universe's way of saying you need to take a break from trying to uphold that individual, from trying to pretend that that's who you are. And at that point, I was just sick and tired of pretending to be that individual, pretending to have to do all of this stuff, pretending that I could even make a difference. But initially, when there was still that connection to the little me, it felt hurt, it felt nihilistic, like completely pointless. What's the point anymore? But then I realized I could see it both ways. The bad news is you can't do anything, but the good news is you don't have to do anything. And I felt for a time that I would literally sit around for the rest of my days until this body withered away and died. I couldn't see how I would ever be motivated, or this entity, this thing that was here would ever be moved again to do anything. But then without explanation and without reason, several months later, it was as though I was inflated again, like those inflatable, tall, waving arm figures that you see outside a garage forecourt. Something became animated inside me. There was no cause. There was no future plan. There was no goal or vision. There wasn't even an action or a series of things that happened. It just was an energy that was experienced by nobody. And people often ask, well, how do you get out of bed in the morning? What motivates you? What makes you rise up in the morning and get out of bed? It just happens. When you take that step back into that seat of the observer, what you realize is there was never anybody doing anything, ever. This is all happening through you and despite you. It's like the child who's sitting in the passenger seat of a car with a pretend steering wheel, thinking that he's steering left and right and controlling the car. When you actually take your hands off the steering wheel of life, what you realize is you weren't doing any of it in the first place. It all continues to happen. So while on the surface it may look as if there is doing taking place, as if there is waking up occurring, as if there is creation of videos happening, as if there is speaking happening, there is only happenings to nobody. There is only all that there is, all that there ising with itself.